Hello everyone. Today we were talking about parallel and perpendicular lines. So I'm going to be zooming out in and out on this sheet, but you can find this sheet at the very bottom. I'll attach the file of this completed. So first of all, we talk about parallel lines, and I like to always emphasize that parallel lines are actually in the word. And so the one thing I want us to remember about parallel lines is that they never touch. Okay? So parallel lines, they never touch, they never cross, they never intercept. Okay, so right now, write that down somewhere so you don't forget it. Okay, the other type of lines we're going to be talking about today are perpendicular lines. So perpendicular lines, here's two examples of them. So we notice that they do cross or intersect, whichever word you want to use. And the thing I want you to notice about it is what is the angle that they're crossing at. So we talk about the fact that it's either a 90-degree angle, or you can call this like a T. It makes that T, whichever way makes it easiest for you, okay? So this is old, you should know this already. Now we're gonna talk about what we went over yesterday, which was this idea of slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, and point slope form right here. So the one thing I want you to be able to do is identify where is the slope. Where is the slope at? Okay, so we know in the mx plus b, your slope is always right next to the x. So in this example right here, y equals 4 minus 3x, we know the slope is right here next to the x, so your m value here is -3. So we have to be able to know where to identify that. Versus, on my point slope form, we know that the m is right here, as y'all can see. And so my m value, my slope value here is 2/3. Okay, so all of this is just prior knowledge that you have to know to be able to do today. All right, let's look at our first example here. So parallel lines, I have drawn on this graph, as y'all can see, two parallel lines. So I already gave you the equation of this first line. And so one thing I want you to realize is these actually are going in the same direction. They have the same rate of change. The only thing that's different is where is your b value. So if we look at this equation, it says y equals 1/2, that's your m, x plus 1, that's your b. Okay, so my b value is +1, but does the slope, does the rate of change actually change at all? It does not. And so the one thing that is super important is that parallel lines actually have the same slope. They have the same slope. That is the exact same. The only thing that changes is the b. So I know that the slope of this line is the same as this one, so the m value is 1/2. And I see that it's crossing, let me make that a different color, right here at -1, -2. So I can actually write this equation of the line. It's going to be y equals 1/2 x minus 2, right? Your m and your b. Okay, let's look at one if it's not on the graph, because it's always easier to see it. But what if we say this? Write an equation of a line parallel to y equals 4x minus 7 that goes through the point 4, -8. Okay, so some things we just talked about. One is that parallel lines have the same slope. So I first need to identify what is the slope here. So I see that this has a slope of 4. My m is 4. So I know the slope, let's do it in blue, is going to be 4. And let's remember point slope form, which we can use right here. If this is my x1 and this is my y1, can I write a full equation? The answer is absolutely. So we're going to plug it into this point slope form. We're going to say this. Y, okay, sorry that cut off. We're going to say y minus, there we go, minus y1. So my y1 value that I already marked is -8. So -8 equals m. We know that the m is going to be 4 parentheses x minus my x1, which is 4. And this is almost perfect. The one thing I need to notice is I have minus and negative. So that's going to become a positive. Sorry, these colors are kind of hard to see. So let me write this one more time over here. So my final answer here would be y plus 8 equals 4 parentheses x minus 4. All right, I'm going to have a question pop up on your screen, and I want you to try it and see and make sure you understand this. I'll leave this up here if you didn't get it. All right. Hopefully you got that one right. Parallel lines are kind of our easiest lines, so we're going to move to the more difficult one, which is perpendicular lines. Okay, so we talked about perpendicular lines form a 90-degree angle. One thing I want y'all to notice right off the bat is that these actually also do not have the same y-intercept But their slopes are definitely not the same because as you can see here in this original line, we have a positive slope and this one is negative. So when we talk about perpendicular line slope, we actually already learned this in class, but it's okay if you've forgotten it. We said that it is the opposite reciprocal slope. So what do we mean by opposite? What that means is if it's positive, it turns to negative, and if it's negative, it turns to positive. Okay, reciprocal just means flip, and then that's the slope. So let's find some opposite reciprocals here. 3/5. So the opposite, right now this is positive, would be negative, and when I flip it, it becomes 5/3. Okay, let's look at this one. -1/2. Okay, the opposite of negative is positive. The opposite of 1/2, when I flip that, becomes 2/1. I can actually reduce that all the way down to just 2. All right, so with 2 is this one, when I look at 8, okay, 8 is currently positive, so we know it's going to be negative, but how do I flip 8? Well, really, this is 8/1, so when I flip it, it's going to become -1/8. All right, I want you to try. So a problem's going to pop up on your screen right now. Go ahead and try that one. All right, so let's look at this graph. Hopefully you're understanding the opposite reciprocal. It says, what is the equation of this line? It's pointing to this one right here. Well, it gives us the equation of this line, which is y = 1/2 x plus 4. So the first thing I need to identify is what is the m. So the m is currently 1/2. In order to find the perpendicular, because I know it's perpendicular, I have to find the opposite reciprocal. So 1/2. The opposite is going to be negative. When I flip it, it becomes 2. So I know the equation is -2. So when I look at the equation of the sign, we're going to say y equals -2x. And then what is the y-intercept here? It's actually crossing at the origin at 0. So we can say plus 0, or you can just say y equals -2x. All right, y'all are doing great work. We have one more problem. This might be your most difficult, but if you've been keeping up so far, you're going to do great. It says this. What is the equation of the line that is perpendicular, so that makes you know that it's opposite reciprocal, to y equals 2x plus 4 and passes through the origin? We know the origin is 0, 0, so that's going to be your b. So we already know what the b is. Okay, right here it says y equals 2x plus 4. Okay, the slope here is 2. In order to find the perpendicular slope, we have to find the opposite reciprocal. So the opposite of 2, right now it's positive, is going to be negative, and when I flip 2/1, it becomes -1/2. So I actually have 2 ways I can go about writing this, you guys, because this is a pretty easy b value. So one thing I can do is I can just say y equals the m -1/2 x plus 0. That's your mx plus b. But these aren't always going to be this easy. So I want to show y'all you can also still use point slope form. Let's call this x1 and this y1. So when I plug this in, we're going to say y minus your y1, which is 0, equals my m, which we already calculated right here, -1/2 x. I did this wrong. We all make mistakes. This is my mistake right now. Right here, I started making a mistake. Sorry if you're writing this down with me. This is human. This is homeschool. We figured it out, okay? But that's not the formula. The formula says, oops, the next thing we have is your m, which is negative, and I don't even know how to work this thing, -1/2 parentheses x minus, and then x1, which is 0. Hey, y'all, either of these works. Thank you for sticking with me through that. All right, I just want to go over some major keys for you as you start to do the rest of today. Number 1, parallel lines. Same slope, never touch. That's what you got to know about it, okay? Perpendicular lines, opposite reciprocal, make that 90-degree angle, and the point slope form is going to be your lifesaver today because all you have to do is take your point and your y1, and then you are going to know how to calculate your m because we just did that, and you plug it in there, and that's how you get 100 for the day, okay? I am so proud of you guys. You've got this. Please reach out if you have any questions at